and welcome to CIO News on our Voice of CIO series. I'm Khushbu Soni, your host for the broadcast and a contributing editor at CIO News, where we write about business strategy and boardroom issues for technology leaders. This is a recorded session and will be available on our website, which is cionews.co.in, and our CIO News LinkedIn handle. Let me dive in introducing our guest for today, the experienced Gurjeet Sethi, the Chief Information Officer at Bajaj Sons Limited. Gurjeet Sethi is a veteran in field of IT with over 38 years of rich experience. He's worked with brands like Hero Honda Motors, Synergy, Avon Cycles, a lot of public sector banks, software companies, and has overseen their implementation of business applications of almost 150 organizations. He has rich experience in business process reengineering, data analytics, machine learning. As a CIO, Gurjeet teams up with the chief executive of the organization to set the vision, strategy, and the tone of the organization. For Industry 4.0, he establishes priorities, anticipates and addresses challenges. He's a champion in change efforts, set people up for success and manage risk. Welcome, Gurjeet. It's a pleasure to have you on our Voice of CIO series.
Thank you, Khushbu, for a very beautiful introduction. I am honored.
Pleasure.
And I am happy to be here with you today.
Awesome. Great, sir. So to begin with, if you can give us a quick insight on the impact of Industry 4.0 for the auto component industry.
Yes, so to begin with, I will first give you a brief introduction of industry. How did it reach 4.0?
Yeah.
So the industry 1.0, we would say it is the industrial revolution when the machines were, they started using machines for production and all those things. That was industry 1.0. Then came industry 2.0, where the production went into mass production.
Yeah.
Revolution had come when Japan and US and everybody, they started producing in volumes. So that was industry 2.0. Industry 3.0 was when they started doing automation.
Right.
When the automation came into manufacturing, that was industry 3.0.
Right.
And now it is industry 4.0, where we have started using IT, enabling IT with the machines. My computer gets connected to the machine and they talk to each other. That is when machines talk to each other. That is industry 4.0. So the digital era where the machines and the IT, they are converging. This is industry 4.0. So it is basically creating smart environment in the manufacturing process. The machines become smart, the processes become smart, and all this happens through Internet of Things.
Right.
So the IT and the machine, they get connected to each other with Internet of Things. And then automation comes into play again. So this whole scenario is industry 4.0. And the impact it will make on the auto industry or even other industries is definitely, it lowers the cost of production. It is better quality wise, we are much better, and then our processes become more reliable.
Right.
We have timely deliveries, the supply chain improves. So everybody, in the complete life cycle, they have a win-win situation.
Right.
And now it is, this is now already we are talking of intelligent automation. That is, of course, it was bound to happen, and there's no end to it. It keep on expanding. The intelligent automation is basically RPA and AI.
Correct.
Which are used extensively for automating the manufacturing processes.
Right. So, so how is Bajaj Sons prioritizing for a successful Industry 4.0 journey?
Now, Industry 4.0, as I've given you the whole gamut, is a very large. We have a very large canvas.
Correct.
So it is a journey. It is a long journey, and every long journey, it starts with a first step.
Right.
So, like I would like to correlate this with any journey you would like to take. If I am planning to go out in somewhere, then my first step would be to plan where I want to go, whether I want to visit a city, or whether I want to see a few cities in a country, or I would like to travel the whole of Europe, or whether I would like to travel the whole of the world.
Right.
So this is the scale. So you first decide where do you want to reach.
Right.
And then step by step you achieve that. So in at Bajaj Sons, what we have done is, as a first step, we would like to capture the production data of every machine. So that means capturing production data is a small step which we want to take at first. The first step would be capturing of production data. And it will also, of course, have the machine runtime, the machine downtimes, and all those things. And second step would be that we would like to go into the arena of quality and machine maintenance. That would be our next steps. And once we reach those steps, then we will decide. Ultimate goal, of course, is to have a smart factory where my machine is talking to the other machine. My processes are smart, and everything is my supply chain and everything is there, talk to each other.
Right.
So we have, to begin with, we have Wi-Fi enabled our factory. We have installed IoT devices on
Awesome.
first set of machines, and we have started capturing production data, which is directly now readable on my ERP.
Right. Um, so also my next question on that is, as manufacturing is now going digital, and although because of the whole pandemic situation we were in, everything has started moving to digital. How, Bajaj Sun is seeking to form strong, transformative, and reliable industry 4.0 partnerships.
Yes. So you can't complete this journey without the support of technical partnerships. That is very clear. Like any other journey, I gave you an example of, if you are planning to travel, then you need a lot of people to help you out. Like, you need a travel agent to plan your itinerary. You need airlines to take you there. You need taxi operators. You need guides. You need the hospitality industry and much more people. They are all involved to make your journey a very happy and a memorable one.
Yeah.
Similarly, the industry 4.0 journey is also, you need a lot of technical support from different people, because it is converging of so many technologies together.
Correct.
So IoT is one. You need interfacing devices with your machine. Now there can be different kinds of machines. You have CNCs, then you have, in India, a lot of industry has legacy machines, which even we have, and majority of the auto ancillary industry in India, they are still working on the legacy machines,
Right.
which do not have a digital component. There's no PLC or there's nothing, but then you need that machine also to talk to the system.
Right.
So how do we do that? So there are a number of different sensors available. Now that interface between the sensor and the IoT, and then the machine and uh, to our systems. So all that is technical stuff, and we need technical support over there. Then security is a big issue, of course. and we need to have agencies who are, they have specialization in keeping my data secure. So we have to take their help.
Right.
So there are a number of players
Right.
where then AI comes into play, ML comes into play. So we need specialists over there. You can't hire every person, every
Yeah.
specialist on your roles. So you need to develop these technical partnerships, definitely. And it is very, very important to have good partnerships who can, understand your vision. They can understand your requirements and then support you to have a wonderful journey. Yes, these are very important.
Absolutely. So, like you mentioned, also you spoke about security. So, my next question is, how would you describe, cyber everywhere in the auto component industry, and what sets Bajaj Sons apart in terms of its approach on cyber anywhere?
As Deloitte put it, cyber isn't merely a technology issue. It's a strategic business risk that will continue to impact every facet of every organization.
True.
See, in this new era, everything is now converging.
Correct.
You have smart devices, you have smartphones which connect to your systems,
Yeah.
and they are connecting to the outside world, freely. Now, the whole scenario of connectivity is changing. Like you're getting connected to the whole world.
Yeah.
You're connecting to all kinds of devices.
True.
Today, my car is also connected. It is talking to the manufacturer directly.
Yeah.
So all these systems, when they talk to each other, definitely the security issues will definitely come in to play, because you don't have all good people in this world. You also have crooks. So who enjoy, disturbing things, destroying things, and you have to secure yourself from them. The day by day connectivity between humans, things, and systems is increasing manifold,
Absolutely.
and so are the risks.
Absolutely.
The scale is increasing manifold.
Right.
So organizations have to align their priorities and work in concert. It's kind of a concert now,
Right. Right.
and to drive our core business objectives. As the IoT and IT converge,
Yeah.
the risk assessment too has to, broaden.
Got it.
It is everyone's responsibility, and we all need to be vigilant on this. So at the moment in the auto component industry, I would say that the industry, if you say, we can easily divide into two: the OEMs and the ancillaries. OEMs, of course, you can count on the hands, but the ancillary industry is large. They're in thousands.
Right.
And I'm talking about this. We are also in this arena of ancillaries. We are suppliers to OEMs.
Yeah.
So in the auto component industry, as far as ancillaries are concerned, it is just a beginning when people are just, looking at it, looking at Industry 4.0, how it can help them. And then it, of course, needs resources, it needs a lot of budgets and all those things. So not many ancillaries have yet jumped into it. But as the competition increases, it will be necessary for their survival.
Correct.
And so will the risk increase? That is, of course, cyber everywhere has to, this emerging cyber security trends and best practices of all the enterprises need to be re-looked at.
Correct.
We have to keep our security landscapes, threat landscapes. They have to be up to date, and we need to develop stronger security strategies. This is very, very important.
So how can your company or any other company promote external collaboration to address these cyber risks in the industry 4.0? Just the thoughts.
Yeah, cyber risk is definitely a very big threat, and no one, but people have to learn to live with it. Like, see, you can't say that you will ride a bicycle and expect that you will never fall. If you are now, of course, everybody is on the cyber. Even a small, rickshaw owner has a smartphone, so even he is connected to the world. And to think that you are 100% safe is very foolish. You can never be 100% safe. Like I said, that you are riding a bicycle and then you expect you will never fall. Of course, you will fall. But what you can do is that you can secure yourself from the fall, that you don't break any bones, that you should be able to get up and run in a matter of minutes.
Right.
That is what is required. And that is what everybody, all the major strategy for this
Right.
threats are designed in a way that if you are attacked, then you are able to recover from that in the shortest possible time. Definitely, you take precautions also, because prevention is better than cure. So there has to be a very well planned threat analysis, and you should have systems in place to mitigate those risks. And at Bajaj Sons also, we keep analyzing our security threats, and we keep rewriting our security policy.
Right.
Yes.
So my next question is, how do what kind of expectations you think, you have from the customers in the industry 4.0 journey, and also maybe how Bajaj Sons is bringing customers along in this journey?
Right now, our customers have not started demanding anything on Industry 4.0 as such. So, but I think in the near future, the OEMs will start looking at organizations who have implemented 4.0. That will definitely go a long way.
Right.
And the response of customers is definitely very, very positive. Like the first set of implementation which we did, and we shared that with our OEM, one of the largest OEMs in two-wheelers. So they were very happy to see how we have implemented it, and they advertised it or with their other vendors, and even internally with their departments, that see, this is what Bajaj Sons have done, which is very commendable. So that was very, very big motivation for us. Customers definitely are looking forward that the ancillaries, they adopt Industry 4.0, because the process reliability is going to increase, the delivery reliability is going to increase, the quality is going to increase. So they feel more comfortable dealing with such vendors who have implemented Industry 4.0, so that means they have robust systems on which they can rely. This is definitely going to be a major factor in pushing the ancillaries into adopting 4.0.
So, any thoughts or key messages that you would like to share with the fellow CIOs? Any do's, don'ts, best practices maybe in this race of Industry 4.0?
Best practices, what I have understood, I can just share my thoughts, because everybody will have their own experiences, and they will have their own way of thinking. So what I have thought is we have to go step by, we want to take small steps at a time. That is the practice we are adopting. We are not going with a big bang theory. We are first we are taking a very small set of machines, because the learning also has to happen parallelly. My production engineers, my quality engineers, they are not used to these things. For them also it is new. So even they have to learn. So the whole journey, at least the first three phases, I think we will take around 5 to 6 years to complete this journey, where I will be able to say that yes, now all my machines, they talk to each other. So that is the one of the best practices I would like to follow. And the another point which I would like to raise over here is that the ancillaries, they do a lot of R&D into this. They invest resources, they invest budgets. They do get appreciation from the OEMs, but monetary wise, it is the reverse. Flip side is that the moment I improve my process, I lower my cost of production, the OEMs, they start looking for cost reductions, which means that I am not able to retain the profits which I have been able to generate due to my good work. I have to pass it on. Now, this at time becomes a hindrance, because if I'm parting away with those things, then I'm left with very little resources for my technological upgradation.
Right.
And that is where the OEMs need to understand. If they call their ancillaries associates, then they have to understand that if my systems are becoming robust, if I am adopting new technologies, so in turn, their final product will be of a better quality and more reliable. So in turn, even they will benefit out of it. So as an example, I would like to just give a small example. The uh, the raw material prices, in 2010, steel prices were somewhere around rupees 40 per kg, and today, 2020 December, it's at 55 rupees per kg. So it's a jump of 37%, 37.5%. And so is the cost of conversion. That has also grown up to by 35%. But if you take a cost, I've taken an example of one vehicle, which in 2010, the top model costed 12.5 lakhs. And now it is selling for 24.6 lakhs. So there is a 100% jump on the prices of the vehicles.
Right.
But what the OEM gets is just the raw material, increase.
Correct.
Even the cost of conversion increase is given once in 5 years.
Oh.
So the OEMs, they are why the ancillaries, why the ancillaries will not jump into this straight away is because of these financial resources are, very limited.
Correct.
You can check the balance sheets of ancillaries and OEMs, and you come to know this story. So I think OEMs have to understand this, that if they need reliable vendors, then they have to really consider them associates. They do call them associates, but as far as profit sharing is concerned, they are not associates.
Right.
This is one hindrance which I see in the technological upgradation of ancillaries, at least in India.
So, and is this how you've been seeing for the other regions as well, or you see this majorly in India as a challenge?
Well, we have been dealing only with the Indian customers, so I don't have much experience about the other markets, but in India, of course, this is a very big challenge. We have 4 manufacturing plants, and at all 4 manufacturing plants, it's the same issue. And I am sure the other ancillaries whom we know of, all are so facing the same issue.
So, I mean, I just also wanted to ask, in this whole situation that we had been, and from last 2020, how does Raj Sons, coped up the situation? And I'm sure you are definitely, you've managed the business continuity. So I just wanted to probably, if you could share some insights on how did you manage this journey of pandemic and ensuring work from home, etc., was provided.
During the first phase of pandemic, that is last year, it was like everyone was hit out of the blue. So no one knew what to do, how to do, and we took time. Everybody took time to stand up on their feet again.
Yeah.
So even we, of course, we took time, but we were able to manage. The factory was closed for about 1.5 months in last year, during last year first pandemic wave, and then we slowly the production started. So when you start the production after such a long gap, there are a lot of issues which need to be addressed. Your machines, they need to be cleaned, re-oiled, and
Yeah.
rechecked that whether it's still running in the same state, same condition or not. And then you have to, again, whatever material is lying in the, work in progress, some of that has gone bad, it has become rusted, or which cannot be used straight away. So you have to do some extra processes to recover that. So like that, there are a lot of issues, which you have to tackle if the factory gets closed for such a long time. And those losses, nobody, takes care of those losses. You have to take care of them yourself. So that, of course, then you slowly ramp up the production. You start from zero, and then because the demand also, increases slowly. But for two-wheelers, like we are into two-wheelers, the two-wheeler industry, the demand came up very suddenly.
Yeah.
After the lockdown was removed, we reopened everything. Then suddenly the two-wheelers were in much demand, and we had the ramp-up plan had to be very, very aggressive. So that was again a challenge. Uh, from 0 to 100, you have to go in a very short time.
Right.
So, but then again, you reach 100, and then again there was a slowdown again. So you come down again back. Second wave, then there are again closures, partial closures. But this time, I think the government, they were better. They had better strategies in place that they did not close the industry. So the industry was allowed to function. That was a good point. So that the labor also, labor, you need not, they need not sit at home without wages. So they are also earning. Their livelihood is intact. So that is why in the second wave, there were no, migrations back to villages. So these were the advantages. So this time, we did not close our factory. It was running. Of course, the production levels went down, but there was no lockdown, or we didn't have any unscheduled closures. So these are some of the plus points. Of course, the government strategy does matter, because people have to follow the rules and regulations what the government stipulates. But this time we were able to pass through the second phase, and let's keep our fingers crossed for the third wave, which they are already predicting that in September, October, we might get the third wave.
Oh, it's just trying to stay safe as much as
Yes.
possible.
Yes.
My one last question. This brings to an end. I just want to understand what percentage of work you think will remain digital, post COVID. I mean, definitely COVID has accelerated the digitization for a lot of companies. But what percentage you think will remain digital?
Will remain digital,
Yeah.
or will be like added to the digital?
Um, for example, right now everybody start moving to digital. So we see a huge spike in organizations moving to digital. So after this, do you think there will be more acceleration where people will start investing more into digital technologies and people will believe more on digital, or will it go back to normal? So what percentage you think?
See, one advantage of this pandemic has been that people have learned the different ways to work,
Yeah.
new ways to work.
Yeah.
There are definitely lots of new things which the pandemic has taught us,
Yeah.
and most of those go to our advantage. Most of the things which we have learned new due to the pandemic, the way of working, and in certain places we have been very innovative also. So I think this will act as an as an impetus for digital growth rather than coming back from the digital world to the analog world. I think the digital world is going to increase at a much faster pace because now people have experienced and they have seen firsthand the advantages of going digital,
Yeah.
how easy it is to do business, how easy it is to, even order your groceries
Correct.
and all those things.
Correct.
So this is going to increase. Definitely. This is not going to, people are not going to come back into the analog world. I don't think they will ever come back to the analog world.
Great. I think this has been a great insight, Kuljeet. We come to an end of a fireside interview. I just have one last question. Maybe if you can share your insights, how was your experience on coming on the platform of CIO News and giving us your feedback?
Yeah, it is a great experience. I have not come on such platforms earlier. Maybe because I never thought about it. It is good that CIO News contacted me and wanted me to give an interview. This is a new experience for me, and definitely it is a good one because then this is how you can share your ideas, your views with others, and definitely you learn a lot from these things when you hear about what others are doing. It is definitely a very good experience, and I look forward to having more such events.
Great. So it's totally our pleasure, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sure our viewers and all the other fellow CIOs are going to get great insights from this interview that we've had. So thank you so much for sharing your journey, your insights with us today.
Thank you very much, Khushbu. It was a pleasure talking to you.